Good day, good morning, and good evening, Commanders. Today, I have something new for you. Today, we will be doing a tier list video. Now, as you can see, I've already built out the tier list, and now I'm going to spend my time explaining why I put each and every one of these divisions in these tiers. Now, 56, yeah, self-explanatory to say the least. They get free double vet BMP2s. They get two cards of free vet BMP2s in the recon tab. They get T62s with area denial ATGMs. They get good CAS. Although their MiG-27s did get nerfed, but it's still, and the cluster mortars as well. They got nerfed. Um, but 56 is still the best division in the game because it still gets free vet BMPs on every card that it gets BMPs, and they removed one card where they get BMPs, and that doesn't matter. That didn't change anything because they still get lots of other cards that get free vet BMPs, so it doesn't really matter. They didn't nerf it much. So that's why 56 has S tier. 35th, following up, is like a mini version of 56. Yeah, just it doesn't get the T62s, it doesn't get any tanks. But it does get helicopters to play with. I mean, 56 yeah does as well, but 35th gets even better helicopters to play with. So 35th is like a close matchup, but you will notice if you're going from 56th to 35th, you will notice the lack of tanks or armor, to say the least. But it is still very good division because it scales nicely. Free BMPs backed up with helicopters, backed up with lots of ASFs. 119. Now, here's where a lot of people disagree with me, but in the new patch, 119 got added Razatka BMP2s. That made it jump from straight up like B tier to S tier. And now it's such a small change. And another thing is they buffed the availability of TO55s. Now you can get two cards on double vet, and then you get eight of them. So you get eight double vetted TO55s, which is insane. You can get even more if you down vet them once, but I wouldn't recommend it. I think double vet is the minimum. So 119 is now an S tier division in my opinion, and it's better than all of the other ones because what 119 used to do is it would open Spetsnaz, back it up with BRDM2s and BRM1Ks, but then you didn't get anything that could counter like an AMXRC, for example, or you didn't get anything that could counter enemy autocannons because the BRM1K doesn't have the range, nor the accuracy, nor the penetration to deal with them. Now you get a Razetka BMP2, so you can deal with all of that. So your opener is super fast. Obviously, you don't scale fast, but your opener is super fast. And the BMP2s pack a very big punch, especially as a recon deploy. 5e. This is kind of self-explanatory. The reason being is there's just such cheap tanks. They're not the most cost-efficient tanks, but the way you want to play it with this division is simply just to constantly AMX 10 RC, AMX 30 B, and just go. And because they're super cheap, you can get them on double vet as well, and then you get double vetted tanks that do their work. And just it scales beautifully, to be honest. 5e just scales very fast, very good, and it beats any opponents really that mess around with it. Another thing is all their tanks get autocannons, so there's no reason for IFV spam. So there's that. You don't have to redirect the resources to IFV spam because your tanks are practically IFVs just with main tank guns. Um, Moving on to A tier, second SAS here. Second SAS is really just about their speed and how they scale. The Challengers recently got buffed in availability, so this is what made this division even stronger than it is right now. Don't get me wrong, the Challenger buff was definitely needed, but it made second SAS even better than it already was, and it was already very good. Um, I think they need to change just something slightly about this division. I think it's a bit too powerful right now, especially on maps like I don't know, like two legs. Because like if you're facing I don't know, as like some division that doesn't have forward deploy, let's say like 39th or 25th or third or I mean, third gets snipers, but that's not really much, is it? If you're facing any of these divisions that don't have forward deploy, um, against second SAS, you're really just kind of gonna die, and there's really nothing you can do about it. So that's why. Second SAS, brings up Foxes, brings up Challengers, spams Warrior Milans, and there's really nothing you can do. Second Panzer, a division that's been in the high ranks for a very, very long time. Second Panzer, straight up, it's just mostly about the IFVs, the Leo 1s, and then you get some Leo 2A3s. And it just does really well. It can air spam really well. It air spams really well. Its A tab is very solid. Its tank tab is, well, solid. It doesn't get any heavier tanks, but it does very, very well, and it gets forward deploy FS Jaegers. It gets a fast opener, especially with lots of recon fire support. So that's why this division is A tier. Moving on, fourth is Mechanism, the fourth Polish square. This division, I feel like, is an A tier now because of the Merida buff. The Merida buff made all of these divisions, fourth is Mechanism, fourth Mot-Schutzen, and 157th. It made them all A tier basically. Fourth is Mechanism, doesn't have the fastest opener. It does have a fast one though. It doesn't have the fastest opener, but it does have a very good early game. A very, very good early game. You can spam cheap units and trade off enemy heavier tanks with your own cast. So it does really, really well. This is basically why it is an A tier. 20th Pancerna, another Polish division. It's a Polish tank division. This is an A tier because, well, T-72s, right? The most cost-efficient tank in the game. It hard counters a lot of, like, Leopard 2 divisions, simply because the T-72s outperform Leopard 2s. Not a 2A4C, of course, I mean, but in numbers, in a fight where there's numbers involved, T-72s do come out on top. Simply because like the way the maps are made, yes, you are engaging on max range a lot of the time, but there's also a lot of situations where you're not, and then the T-72s really shine there. For example, like urban front lines, 20th Pancerna versus, I don't know, let's say like 5th Panzer. 5th Panzer just loses that horribly. There's really nothing you can do. Moving on. 4th Mot-Schutzen. Another thing about like 20th Pancerna, it gets lots of Seria As, the Su-22 M4s with AT missiles. It gets lots of Cubs. It gets a good AA tab. It gets very good tanks. It gets very good infantry. This is just a very solid division, like all around. 4th Mot-Schutzen, very good A tab, good tank tab with Bastion ATGMs that have area denial capabilities on the T-55s. They got Merida buffed, so, you know, the T-55 AMs got buffed, so 4th Mot-Schutzen has skyrocketed up the ranks. There's, like, 4th Mot-Schutzen does well with helicopters, its air tab is fine, its infantry tab is solid, good forward deploy, and the tanks are really solid as well, so it does really well, in my opinion, A tier. 79th, a very, very solid division. I put this in A tier because I feel like 79th, you can outrun it, right? But you can't like outdo it in the late game, to say the least. You can, I mean, like as 119, you can definitely outdo it, but 79th, you can get double vetted ISDs, and then they really pack a punch, and they really deal a lot of damage. You also get, unlike 39th, for example, here, you get Spetsnaz GRUs, which give you that forward deploy to hold the line while the rest of your force arrives. So you can get TO-55s with these guys, back them up with ISDs, you have lots of T-80s to work with, you have very good AA, your air tab, it's fine. You'll manage with it. But basically that's it. 79 does really well. So, in my opinion, it gets lots of BMPs as well. In its infantry tab, it gets lots and lots of BMPs. So that's why, in my opinion, A tier. 11th Cav. in my opinion, used to be over 79th, but it's now under because the OH-58 CS Scout got nerfed hard. That one recon little helicopter with a minigun got nerfed so hard that it made all the divisions that rely on it to have a fine opener fall down in ranks. For example, the reason 3rd Armored here is in D tier is because before the patch, 3rd Armored was, in my opinion, low C tier because you could get away with, oh, you could bring up OHs, put them down every road, and then get away with not having anything for your forward deploy or recon deploy. Like 3rd Armored, the reason it's down here is because its scouts do not get AT. It's literally its opener is so bad and so slow that by the time that your main forces arrive, the enemy has already taken the entire map. And there's really nothing you can do because all of your scouts do. None of your scouts get AT. So the enemy can literally, if they have better recon infantry than you, they can literally go straight into you and take that fight. And that's what I did against some 3rd Armoreds, and they lose in like 7 minutes or less because there's really nothing you can do. And by the time that the HAs or any like heavier tanks arrive, you just get cast and you bomb it, and then it's dead. So they've lost the entire front line. By the time that their tanks have arrived, everything's lost, and then they get bombed, and that's it. So that's why 3rd Armored's all the way down here. Moving on back to 11th Cav. 11th Cav, the OH has got nerfed, so now both of these divisions that rely on it heavily have fallen down in rank. Now, obviously, 11th Cav hasn't fallen down that much. It's only fallen down, in my opinion, one place. Because 11th Cav still does really well. It still gets Bradleys in the recon tab. It gets ACAVs. Gets away with its recon tab. It does really nicely. Your infantry tab, not the best, but it does get away with it. You get the mech rifles, you get the Panzer Grenadiers, so you do fine enough. Your AA tab is fine, and your air tab is good. You get good CAS, you get the F-16 clusters, the F-16 ATs, you get the F-16s, ASFs, so you do really well, and 11th Cav, in my opinion, does perform, but it just gets outshined by some other divisions that have faster openers and a good late game as well, because 11th Cav lost its OHs. It's no longer as powerful. 5th Panzer. 5th Panzer, below 11th Cav, I think it's self-explanatory, because all of your tanks are just one tap, kaboom, explosion. So 5th Panzer suffers in that criteria. But it does get lots of recon fire support. Recon fire support. It gets lots of forward deploy. So it does really well in my opinion. It does very solidly. You get a good infantry tab. You can back it up with Panzer Grenadiers, Mortars. Your tanks. You get 2A4Cs. You get lots of them as well. And then you have to spam 2A3s, but you can also transition into Leopard 1s. So you always have an option. You get 2 cards of 2A4Cs, so you do really well. 4E. Now this is the division that I am famous for playing. And now in my opinion, I never put 4E in S tier. It was just the way that I played it that I got away with winning like that. Well, the way that I play a lot of these divisions is how I get away with winning that fast. 4E never would really put it in S tier because it gets out. For example, like matchups that I hate to see as 4E is, for example, like 20th Pancerna, because 20th Pancerna gets 4 Serie A ATs, 4 of them, and all of your tanks here, except for 1 card of 2A4Cs, are 1 tap to them. So all of your tanks are 1 tap except for 1 card, and these guys get 2 cards of 2 of Su-22 M4s. So you can kind of see where you really suffer. It's just a complete shutdown. And another thing is that T-72s, again, really cost efficient. They can hold their own against the upgraded 2A4s, but Not necessarily. Your 2A4s definitely do win their fights, but if numbers are included, T-72s win. And again, the T-72s are not really interested in winning those fights. They're more so interested in occupying the 2A4s so that the Serie A's can jump in and kill all your tanks. That's really the way you want to play it against 20th Pancerna. Against 4E as 20th Pancerna. So the 4E just gets, in my opinion, hard countered by 20th Pancerna, and it gets outshined by all of these other divisions because none of those divisions lose what they are good at in less than 2 seconds. Because 79th is good at tanks, but it doesn't lose its tanks instantly. 11th Cav is good at tanks, but it doesn't lose its tanks instantly. 2nd Panzer, it does, but it gets air spam and good ASFs and good AA to back it all up, so it doesn't lose. Now, again, yeah, 4E does get good AA, like it gets IHawks, it does fine. However, you don't get any long range ASFs. So as soon as the IHawks are down, and unless they are down, 4E will suffer because you cannot stop them. All they realistically have to do is just suicide themselves into you. They don't really have to escape alive. He gets 4 of them. If he can just kill off 4 tanks from you and then die himself, which will not happen, he will escape alive at least once or twice, which means he's gonna get at least 6 tanks from you, and that's deadly. As 4E, that's just you cannot survive losing 6 tanks because like in total you have like 10 tanks or 12 or something. Well, at least the way that I take it, I in total have like 10 or 12 tanks. Losing 6 is losing half, and then you're only left with like commanders, probably like 2A4s or something. Being left with 6 tanks to cover the entire front is just not enough. Especially because you're facing like 20th Pancerna, which will just spam T-72s to infinity and beyond. Moving on. 157th. 157th, very, very solid. I put it in A tier because Merida buff. It doesn't have the best opener, but it does have a very very powerful early game in my opinion. BTR 40s, BTR 40 AAs, backed up with T55s, backed up with the Reservisti. It does really well. It gets good casts, kind of. The T10s, very good ASFs. So, in my opinion, this division does really well because it scales really well. It can attack everywhere, and it's just how it plays. It plays really quick. It plays really good early game, and it has a fine late game. Well, not the best late game, but it has a survivable end game. That's the thing. Moving on, Ninth Panzer. So Ninth Panzer. Why I put it in B tier. Don't get me wrong, Ninth Panzer hard counters some divisions that are in A tier. So I just want that to be understood. Ninth Panzer does hard counter some divisions in A tier. But that mostly comes down to the matchup. Ninth Panzer by itself suffers due to the fact that it doesn't have long range tanks, like max range tanks, and it doesn't have forward deploy. Now, those are some very big debuffs in this current meta, in my opinion. Like, of course, if you get urban front lines as 9th Panzer, you don't care, because you're just going to spam T-72s and you're going to win. Like, no forward deploy on urban front lines doesn't really mean that much, because you're anyways just going to spam T-72s on that short range, and then you're going to win. So, don't get me wrong, like, 9th Panzer on its maps literally is the best division in the game, uncounterable, on some specific maps. Well, I mean, 56 counters it, but you know. But even actually 56th could technically suffer against 9th on like a specific map. Yeah, where like short ranges are advised. But again, it's all theoretical. 9th Panzer just generally doesn't do that well because it doesn't have max range and it doesn't have forward deploy. And I think that in this current map pool, you cannot really afford that, in my opinion. Now, you can get away with it. That's why it's in B tier. That's the reason that Ninth is in high B tier, is because it's almost A tier. It's almost A tier. Like it's almost there. but it's just missing that forward deploy. Well, I mean, okay, if we gave Ninth Panzer forward deploy, and if we gave it like if we gave it forward deploy and max range, it would be just S tier completely, no doubt about it. But the MUVs got nerfed. Well, not really, but they did. So they didn't really get nerfed. This is increased the price by 5 points. Wow, such a big nerf, right? Um, so yeah, although actually, yeah, the 5 points does kind of make a difference in cycling BMP2s and T-72 MUVs. Because if I think about it, the reason like they were good is because you could get a T-72 MUV for 155 points, and then you can get a BMP2 for 105 points, and that like cancels out. Or like one, no, 110. Yeah, yeah, you could get a BMP2 for 110 points. And then all you had to do was say, and that costs 265. And then all you had to do is just save up like, I don't know, like 20 points from the opener, and then you could buy a T-72 MUV and a BMP2 for 4 minutes, repeatedly. It's super funny. So now it's been, that cycle strategy has been nerfed slightly, but it can still work. So you know, it's not a really like that big of a difference. So that's why Ninth Panzer is in high B tier again. It suffers in terms of range and in terms of forward deploy. KDA. Some people will disagree with KDA. Well, I mean, a lot of people will probably disagree with everything that's in this tier list, but this is the way that I think the meta right now evolves, and I'm firm on my arguments. Maybe there are some potential things where you could change my mind, but I'm firm on my arguments here. Um, because it's just the way that these divisions function. Like it's just the way that they function. I think you cannot change the way that they function. So this is just the way, in my opinion, the ranking goes. Because the Merida buff, like this is just the way it is. Now KDA high B tier. Let me explain. Very good cast, very good AA, infantry that has the opportunity to get buffed into oblivion and then kick ass, and then area denial. Two cards of T62s. You get the T62Ms with the bastions, and then you get the T62MVs with the bastions. So very, very, very solid. Now, where you're suffering when it comes to actual tank-on-tank engagements, in the sense of you're facing an Abrams with a T-62. All you can really do is go cry, unless you have a Bastion ATGM. But the Abrams is gonna eat that Bastion, keep moving, and it's just gonna shoot you in the face. So it doesn't really care. So the Bastion's great at dealing with light. Like KDA is very good at dealing with lighter divs if they give KDA a chance to breathe. Not so good when it comes to dealing with heavier divisions, but it can get away with its cast. But again, you will suffer against heavier divisions. Now, um, another thing is that like KDA, the T62s, I mean, they don't do so well. They don't have max range. Their reload time is really slow, so the bastions are just kind of carrying. But again, it's not the best. So that's why it's in high B tier. Now it's obviously below Ninth Panzer because I mean it also doesn't have forward deploy, but it makes up for that because it gets a fast recon opener and it gets a really good early game. Like you don't necessarily have to have forward deploy to have a very good early game. Forward deploy does not equal very good early game. 157th is a good example of that. It doesn't have forward deploy, but gets a really, really good early game. KDA, another good example. No forward deploy, but really, really good early game. So this is just the way that KDA functions. And that's what makes it high B tier for me, in my opinion. First Armored. First Armored, really, really fine division. Reason it's below KDA is because it has a certain weakness, and that weakness is called early helicopters. Early helicopters make First Armored so just First armor just suffers so much against 30 helicopters. It's kind of insane in my opinion. There's like really nothing you can do because if you bring out a tornado, they lose, right? Like tornadoes just lose to any ASF that you take a look. I mean, not any ASF, but they lose to like what you will be facing the most. Because like, who is realistically going to be starting with an early helicopter against first UK? Probably this guy. Probably this guy. Um, maybe this guy, but I don't think he needs it. Probably this guy as well, right? Something like that. If you take a look, most of these pack divisions they get very good ASFs. They get MiG-29s. 39th gets Cardiff Su-27s. So you're just gonna lose if you bring out a tornado. If you bring out a tornado, you're dead. So that's what happens, and that's why first UK like it does everything well. It just suffers against early helicopters. Hmm. Now some here might disagree with the fourth armored ranking, and I think it's completely fine if you disagree, because I kind of disagree with myself. But I put this division where it is right now because I feel like you could possibly get away with it. Uh, you get away with it by spamming the recon vehicles, and that's it. Like, realistically, nothing else is going for you. You also have those bombers that double up as ASFs. So, again, theoretically, this division could play well. In practice, doesn't really have to go your way, because the chieftains that you get, slowest tank in the game, and if you take cohesion damage, it basically makes it so as you're like literally walking away from the enemy instead of reversing in a tank. Um, but yeah, that's basically it. So fourth UK, it's not powerful, but it does have something in the opener going for it. So that's why it's basically in this kind of B tier. Now, of course, arguments could be made to like shift it down in between here, and I completely agree. Like if you do think like if you do think like this, for example, this is completely fine as well. I could agree with this, but I'm gonna keep it here because in my opinion it does retain some play. Probably you could move it below like seventh though. I think seventh can play a bit better, but again, this is just theoretic. Like it's debatable. Right, seventh here. Um, Seventh Panzer. It's like ninth Panzer's cousin, just better in the forward deploy, worse in the tanks, and worse on the BMPs. So that's why seventh is here basically. Seventh is literally just a ninth Panzer compy, just does scales worse, has the forward deploy, which makes it better, but then again, it's worse in BMPs, worse in tanks, and it just doesn't do that well. So yeah, that's why 7th Panzer is basically where it is. MNAD. MNAD is in B tier because of a certain type of vehicle spam. Scimitars, weasels galore, right? Scorpions, recon scimitars, galore. So that's why MNAD is in the tier it is. Don't get me wrong, MNAD suffers very much against some divisions, but it can make do with what it has. It does get very good infantry. Your AA tab is fine. Get Darkfire, Mistral. It is fine, right? So it can get away with it. Your air tab is Buccaneers, so that's not really the best of things. Um, but so your air tab not quite the best, but and the F-16s as well. But you can get away with it. You have lots of recon vehicles, you have lots of vehicles, you get lots of ATGMs, you get very good infantry. If you play correctly, you can get away with lots of things. But again, it's not better than these divisions, but it is like it does do well against the worst divisions. That's why it's directly in the middle. Ninth Ninth motorized. So the ninth motorized division is, in my opinion, where it is right now because it gets hard countered by divisions that do the same thing just a million times better. And the reason that it's in lower B tier, is because there are a lot of divisions that do the same exact thing, just better. Ninth Moto suffers against just autocannons. Purely just that. Ninth Moto does horribly against autocannons. There's just really nothing to say about it. All your grenade launchers, all your grenade launcher vehicles, everything just instantly dies to an autocannon. You do get Hellfires to play with. That's again why it's better than these divisions, because it does make up for that. It just doesn't make up for it that well. Like, of course, you get the Hellfires, you get MV2s, you get the M60s, so you do well, right? You get a very good air tab, and you get the best cluster bomber in the game in the sense of payload on low altitude. You get the F-16 cluster that gets eight rock eyes to drop on low altitude. It's not high altitude. If it was high altitude, it would be bad. But it's low altitude. It drops 8 rock highs on low altitude. Physically, like the best cluster bomber in the game. Obviously, there are contenders, but for high payload, that's it is. So again, Ninth Moto can get away with it because very good infantry tab, very good, fine tanks, right? And then you get Hellfire ATGMs, really good ATGMs. You get MV2s, and your air tab is amazing. Not the biggest air tab, but it is good. It is quality. But again, you suffer because autocannon comes your way, kills off all your grenade launchers. All of your infantry is now useless because, well, he gets fire support, your fire support is dead, your tanks lose to better tanks, and your Hellfire ATGMs are literally like bounty targets to the point where as soon as someone sees a Hellfire, they're sending a MiG-21 to strafe it with its gun. So, yeah, yes, you do get away with it, but you really don't. So it cancels out, and that's why where it is. That's why it's where it is. Moving on to the 6th Alaskans. So the 6th Alaskans released with 157th, and they are fine. They do fine, but they're definitely not the best, and that's why they are where they are. You don't get any tanks. You only get the Humvee in your tank tab. Where you get your tanks is from the Recon tab. You get the Recon M48s. So if you one vet them, you lose your game. You lose the game instantly. If you reservist them, they're useless. So choose choose what would you rather have: tanks but are useless, or lose the game instantly because you don't have enough of them. So, pick your poison, what you want to go with. The 6th Alaskans suffer because the only tanks that they get are in the Recon tab. They come at very little availability. They don't have smoke, they don't have max range, they don't have a stabilizer. All of these things combined just make those tanks just completely useless. I mean, not useless, don't get me wrong, they are still tanks, they can still tank, but they're not gonna do much. So, yeah, you have to back it up with like the ACAFs. The thing is, your ACAFs don't get any recoilless rifles. It's only the Alaskan Scouts, National Guard Scouts, that get the that get the recoilless rifles. But they come in the ACAFs, so you have to unload the ACAF, use the recoilless rifle, and then load them back up. So it doesn't really get away with much. It gets a good air tab, so a really good air tab, and it gets the Corsair HEs, which drop 1,000 kilogram bombs, which is insane. They won't tap literally anything. It's literally a laser guided bomb. You only need one of them to hit, and anything in your path is dead. It's literally a laser guided bomb that drops on low altitude. Oh my god. So yeah, it does do well, but again, it suffers no tanks, no tanks, no tanks, and no tanks. So yeah, that's just how it goes basically. Moving on to 76th. 76th is not where all of its brothers are. It's not where the VDV brothers are, because it gets, in my opinion, just hard countered. Um, don't get me wrong, like 76, very good opener, right? But not good early, not good late, not good middle game. And now here I can debate on this. The BMD3s, right? Your main focus as 76th is 8 gems, but you don't get any bastions. If you got bastions, 76 would be OP, right? It would be up there with its VDV brethrens, but it does not. So how does a division that focuses around ATGMs manage to lose most of its ATGM deals? How does that work? It doesn't. That's why it's where it is. Because, like, as soon as a bastion comes your way in 76th, and bastions are everywhere this day and age. Bastions are literally everywhere. So, as soon as a bastion, Hellfire, Kokon, what also can I name? Sphere, Reflex, any type of those fast ATGMs comes your way, you're a dead man. And then because your entire division revolves around IFVs, the BMD3s and the BMT2s, they revolve around ATGMs. When you start losing ATGM duels, what is the purpose of your division? And your air tab, it's good, right? Um, but it cannot make up for the fact that you don't have any tanks, you don't have any armor, your IVs start losing ATGM deals, and then you're suffering, right? That's what happens. Now, if 76th had the helicopters of 35th, it would be up there, but it doesn't. It doesn't get any helicopters, so you cannot make up for the loss of that with helicopters. So your air tab is just trying to justify your CAS, and your CAS is gonna eventually end up dying, and then you just end up with nothing basically. So there, in my opinion, 76, like obviously it does fine, right? But it cannot sustain an ATGM duel against divisions that get bastions. So that's why it is where it is. It just gets hard countered in my opinion. And you can also play with smoke and just start dealing with all of its IFVs. Moving on to 82nd Airborne. Uh, if we think about it, it's literally just like 76th, kind of, in the sense of like ATGMs are its focus, but then it starts losing ATGM duels. Like the Sheridans are mostly there for the fire support and the kind of to give you some armor, but not there to deal with enemy IVs. So 82nd starts suffering as soon as bastions come out and play. But 82nd does make up for it. It does make up for it in terms of helicopters and in terms of air. So actually, I might put 82nd here over 76th. I think that's the way that I want to play it here. Yeah, I think I made a little mistake because 82nd, it does the same things as 76th. It just gets less IFV. So I think, I mean, this is very, very, what's it called? Okay. Yeah, it goes either way. It's a two-way street. I think it just revolves around what type of player you are. And I prefer a little bit more armor, so I go for 76th here. But I do think that 82nd technically beats 76th. I do think that it beats 76th, so you could put it up over it. But, then again, depending on the matchup, it is debatable. But both I see I see both points of view here for like the switcher Rooney and the places. I think both are valid. I'll place it here because I made my point about the helicopters. So 82nd does make up for it with lots of Apaches, a very good air tab. Tank tabs not good, right? Sheridans they just lose, but the infantry tab is fine. So you can get away with it. That's where you are basically. That's how it functions. Moving on to Korpus Desantowy. Korpus Desantowy, like, it does fine, right? It does fine. That's why it's above all of these divisions. But it's still not one of the best. Don't get me wrong. Like, if you can win your air war and then start cassing, you're gonna do really well. It's not like this division cannot do well. It's just that like some like other divisions just outshine it. Now, of course, you know, seeing 4th UK up here and then putting Corpus Desantowy up here is just like it's kind of weird. But in my opinion, it's just the way that it works. Like you get the PT-76s in this division, but does that really make up for like the foxes that you get here and the scimitars and stuff like that? I don't think it really does. So that's why Corpus Desantowy is down there. Now it does get very good infantry. It does get a very good air tab. Its helicopter tab is fine. Its tank tab consists of ASUs, T-55s, the UAZ bundle of sticks. So it does do fine, but it's just like when it comes to like practice and like when you put it in practice, Korpus Desantowy just does end up suffering because like the T-55s, they can hold their own, but they really can't hold their own. That's just how it works. 11E, kind of like Korpus Desantowy, just worse because I mean, yeah, your infantry is great, better than Korpus's infantry to be fair. Well, no, kind of, but also not really. Um, You do get tanks. You do get smaller tanks, but they're worse than the T-55s, so it doesn't really matter. Your recon tab is fine. You get the Paras SAS. You back them up with the Milans. You back them up with the Sagais, but like it still just does not really work. Like those French tanks are just gonna end up blowing up anyway. So it doesn't really work that way. That's why it's in C tier where it is where it is. Like there's really nothing like of course you can infantry spam, you can air spam, you can heli spam. But what happens when some of those get shot down? What will you do then? That's what you have to think about when you're ranking a division. Because if you're taking a look like second SAS, what can second SAS spam? It can spam infantry, it can spam tanks, it can spam IFVs, it can spam helicopters, it can spam air. Shutting down two of them still leaves you with three types of spam. Whereas if you go to 11E, it can spam light tanks, it can spam infantry, it can spam it can spam infantry, it can spam helicopters, it can spam air. What happens if two of them get shut down? You're only left with one type of spam. One type of spam is not enough. You just die. You just lose the game. So again, that's why that's how I rank my divisions. Like, what can you do? How many things can you do? If they get shut down, what can you transition into? As 11E, if your air spam gets shut down, like what can you transition into? More infantry? Well, of course, but just like IFV, IFV, IFV kills off all your infantry. What do you do then? Nothing. 101st Airborne suffers in the of course, right. Let's take a look at it. You get Apaches, you get Eagles, right? You get F4 Phantoms. Your CAS, fine. You should get the F4 Phantom HEs, but I think like if you don't get cast, you're kind of gonna suffer because you're just gonna meet that like one AA unit that you cannot deal with your Apaches, and then just like so you have to bomb it, right? You can obviously pull out the 155s to deal with it, or you can get an F4 HE. Now, so it does do the air tab and the heli tab well. It does do recon tab well. You can get the triple vetted Humvee deltas with special forces that make them literally teleport around the fucking map. So you do well everywhere. Your tank tab, the Meeps. The Meeps are overpriced. They're not cost efficient. They're fine. They're good tanks. They're just not cost efficient. So your tank tab, you have to like take it all on reservist as well, and you have to put CVs next to it. So you have to like do some weird type of stuff to get away with your tank tab. Um, your infantry tab is where it starts to suffer. Not because your infantry is bad. Your infantry is like one of the best in the game. Like that's not what I meant. As in like where you start to suffer infantry, your infantry is bad. No, 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 no. Where you start to suffer is the fact that you're gonna notice a lack of fire support. That's where you're gonna suffer. And the Meeps, they're reservists. They're just not enough. And the Apaches, like if your opponent has a good AA net, the Apaches can't even get close. So that's just like where it stands right now. There's no fire support in that division, so it just suffers, and that's why it's C tier. 27th. These two divisions, both pack divisions, they are in C tier for one reason only. No forward deploy. They suffer on this map pool. If you do not have forward deploy, you have to make up for it with an amazing early game. Examples are those, right? So you have good examples that don't have forward deploy, but still get like the but make up for it with an amazing early game. Now, of course, these guys get like the honkers, so they go speedy anyway. So technically, they do have forward deploy, uh, but my point still stands, as in like 157th, no forward deploy, but amazing early game, right? So it makes up for that fact. KDA as well. But these guys do not get an amazing early game. They get a good late game, but by the time that the late game has arrived, these guys are already dead. Like, by the time that their units have arrived to the front, they're already dead. Now, don't get me wrong, there is more play. That's why they are above third, because if it really was like that, they would be down there with third. But they're not, because they make up for it in their own unique ways. 39th, very good air tab, very good helicopters. You get T-80 spam. You get 2 cards of T-80Bs as well, and you just make up for it with the fact that like the rest of your division, it's solid, right? It does well. It's just the only thing you're struggling with is like that tempo and that speed early on. 27th makes up for it in bastions, a very good. Oh, another thing, 39th, very good AA tab. 27th, very good AA tab. Fine air tab. It's not 39 level, but it's fine, right? You get the MiG-29s. So you do fine. You get 1 card of the Su-22 M4s. You do fine. You get BMP3. You get BMP3s, which is your kind of like, which is like the card up your sleeve. But like then again, that's only one unit that's saving your division. You need multiple. So that's again why these guys are C tier. They're not like again they're not third armored level D tier. They do better because they do better. Third armor is just incredibly slow. It just loses instantly. These divisions can get away with it. But again, they still do not really do the best. Unternehmen. It is where it is because it gets a good infantry tab. Tanks got buffed, right? T-55s and availability. So it does do well. It's fine. That's why it's C tier. I think there's like really no reason to explain it much. It's because like it gets a fine air tab. AA tab is fine. Tanks are fine. Infantry is better than average. And when you factor all of those things, Unternehmen just makes it to C tier. Rugener, KSK, T-72, T-72A, Meridas, all the sorts, right? Everything. But it is where it is because the T-72A is like pretty useless, and that's your best tank. Like T-72A is your best tank. Yeah, good luck. Good luck playing that. Now, of course, Rugener can work. It can win. I'm not saying it cannot. It cannot, like, it can win against, well, not really against these. Not really against these. It can win against these divisions. Don't get me wrong. But it still suffers because they do the things that it does just a lot better, right? Like, so that's why Rugener is where it is. Now, its infantry tab is fine, right? It's good. Recon tab, KSK, does well, right? Gets the MI like 14 PLs, like they do fine. The ones with like the KH missiles. But again, those guys are literally like gambling missiles. They never hit, and when they do, they have to hit twice because most tanks in this game have 17 armor, or most tanks that are worth targeting with that type of missile have 17 armor. So that's just the way that it works, and that's why Rugener is where it is. 6, yeah, no forward deploy, it suffers, right? So that's again like divisions that don't get forward deploy or don't make up for it in some type of way. That's why they're down here. All of them are down here. Now these guys, of course, they don't share the same problem, but it is just like it's not the same. It's not the same. 6, yeah, right. You get the MiG-21 clusters. You get good T-64s. You get T-80s as well. But it just does not do that well because again BMPs suffer, your BMPs suffer, your recon tab is fine, but it's just like there's divisions that do exactly what it does, just a lot better, and like there's no point in taking this division. Like I'm not saying that these divisions are bad, right? I mean, okay, this is bad. I'm not saying they're bad. They're fine if you let them do what they're made to do. But I'm just saying, like, realistically, when are you getting the chance to do what you need to do? And if you do eventually end up getting to that, there are divisions that do the same thing that you do, just a lot better, and that's why you're ranked down here. So, yeah, 6, yeah, again, there's just divisions that do the same thing that it does, just a lot better, and that's where it is where it is. 8th Infantry. This division has been this division was at one point S tier. It's been nerfed a lot. So it is where it is right now. C tier at best. Because your opener is like, it's like Bradley's, right? LRS, Bradley's, your opener, you get M60s, you get M1s, you get M1A1s. On paper, it's a solid division. In practice, it doesn't work and it just ends up dying because your air tab relies on the F-16 air superiority fighter. The Sparrow F-16, to put it in to perspective, the Sparrow F-16 is gonna suffer and it's gonna lose every duel you take, so that's why 8th is where it is right now, unfortunately. Um, 16th Belgian. This division, uh, I used to think it was good. I used to use it well, but it just gets hard countered by the division like Second Panzer. Because Second Panzer does the same thing that 16th does, just a lot better. And that's why 16th is where it is. Unfortunately, it is. I mean, like I used to play a lot of this division in ranked, and I like it was really like it was a fun division to play. But you'd get games where its weaknesses really started to show. One of the main problem being no long range AA. So you just get air spammed and you lose other things, and then there's nothing you can do. And to anyone who says Gepards, yes, right, but seed exists. So your Gepards get turned off, and if you turn them on again, it's not like it's a radar missile. It does not do damage based on if it hits or not. It's a Gepard. It does damage based on if you're close to it or not. So by the time that you've turned it off, turned it back on again, your Gepard only gets a slight window to fire, and because a Gepard is a spag unit, it does not get that chance to do its full damage. Um, so that's just the way that it works. And now Mistrals exist, right? The Mistrals do exist. You just don't get enough of them for them to really cover the entire front. Because, like, if you think about Mistrals, you kind of need to put 3 of them everywhere to shoot down something reliably. And even then, it's not really reliable. So, and you only get like 6 on one vet. So it's already, not good. Not a good look. TKS, right? TKS does fine. He gets the AMXs in the recon tab. In the tank tab, the M48s, they suffer. No stabilizer, no smoke, no max range. So they do end up suffering. But, you know, there are divisions that outclass it, definitely. And that's why it is where it is. It's really like, there's nothing much to say about DKS. It's just the fact that it just gets outshined by other divisions. So that's where it is where it is. Your infantry tab is like, it's fine, right? Your tank tab, M48s, it's not really good. Your recon tab is fine. Your air tab is like good cheap spam, but how far will cheap air spam take you to the late game? Not really, right? You get the F104s, you get the Ginas, right? But like, does it really work? Not really. Like, you can make the division work, right? I'm not saying you cannot win with it, but it's just like it is where it is. Like, if you gave it to a new player, they would not make TKS work. Like, if you put 2 new players together, gave one I don't know, like 5e for example, and then gave the other one TKS, they both get AMX RCs, right? But the 5e player gets AMX 30s to spam as well, and then you get some more AMX 10s as well. So TKS just gets outshined, right? And it just loses. Or if you put 2 players to get two again new players together, gave one, I don't know, like 4th Mot-Schutzen, and gave this guy TKS, there's a chance the TKS player might win, but I don't think it's gonna really happen. Because like if the fourth Mot-Schutzen player just starts spamming T55 Medidas, you're gonna lose. That's TKS. There's just nothing you can do. So that's the way that it works, and that's why TKS is where it is. 24th National Guards. Some people can make this division work. I just think that your cast is overpriced, like 315 points for a Strike Eagle. Of course, you get 40% ECM. You have to factor in all of those. The thing is, when your only cast is that major expensive unit, when that unit gets hit at least once, when that unit gets hit at least once, it's out for 5 minutes. And then you cannot use your only cast that you really, really rely on for 5 minutes. And it's just a waste of time and points and everything and of resources. So that's why 24th is where it is. Also the fact that like most of its Bradleys are National Guards, so when they do get ADGM, they just lose all of their cohesion and forget that they even exist on the battlefield. Straight up, all your National Guards Bradleys just straight up forget what to shoot at and all of their training as soon as an ADGM whizzes by. So that's why 24th is where it is. 25th, it is where it is because no forward deploy, really slow. Makes up for it with an air tab, but cannot really like it. Does that really work? Not really, right? Like there's obviously like 25th can get away with things. I'm not saying it cannot, but it's just like it's just it doesn't work, right? The air spam is the only way to win, and if you're not air spamming, you're just gonna suffer against other divisions, right? Because like all your T-64s, one shot, one kill, kaboom, they explode. They get outclassed by literally any tank. Um, that's just the way it works, and that's why 25th is D tier. 152nd. So you get the Veebs, right? You get the Veeb infantry. So it does do fine. You can make stuff happen with this division. It's just like against the good player, 152nd will lose. If the enemy knows how to play against you, you're kind of dead. There's really nothing you can do. All you have to do against this division is just kind of secure the front line, start spamming tanks. Their weaknesses will start showing. You get a good AA net up. They have no physical way of hurting you, and then just slowly grind them out and you kill them. There's really nothing you can do. There's only one thing they can do, and that's just send reservists into you, hoping that they win. But that's not gonna work. Third armored. I explained at the beginning of the video why it is where it is, but basically, all your recon, none of your recon gets AT, right? The scouts don't get AT. Your M82s, you're not M82s. Your snipers don't get AT. Um, nothing that is trying to seize positions as your division gets AT. So if you put a scout in a building trying to hold the line until the main force arrives, until your main force arrives, the enemy, if your enemy is smart, is just gonna push into your scouts because they physically cannot damage vehicles. Is gonna push into your scouts. Is gonna then CQC you. It's gonna kill your scout, and then boom, all of your positions are gone. There's just nothing you can do. Um, so that's why third armored suffers. And by the time that it's like most of its stuff gets to the front line, it's just it like all of your front line is dead. Your back line is arriving, right? Like hold until relieved, but you're holding with scouts with no AT, so it doesn't really work that way. Moving on to 35th, national 35th, the Santa Fe division. Uh, this division suffers because like everything's National Guards. It doesn't get any quality stuff. Everything's reservist. Like it gets a good air tab. Like it gets a fine air tab. Like 42 Friends loves to play this division. Um, and he does make it work, right? But there's also some divisions that are in the lower tiers that I can make work, but that's not a reason to put them in S tier. Simply because, like, you cannot put a division in S tier just because one player can make it work, right? Like that's just not how you build a tier list, right? You cannot put a division like if this tier list was personal preference of what I want to play, then it would look completely differently. Like the tier list would look completely different. But that's not the point. The point is to rank the divisions in terms of how they fare against the meta and against the map pool. And 35th suffers in every possible realm of that. So that's why it is where it is. Berlin Command. Um, really self-explanatory. No forward deploy, so you just suffer. You just die. Uh, no ASFs to back up your your Nighthawks. So you just end up. They did give it. You know what they did do? They did give it some good SAM. Well, not good, but they did give it some SAM. Some SAM units. They didn't used to get any like. They didn't used to get any like sophisticated A systems. Now they do. They only used to get like manpads. Um, but that doesn't make a difference. That doesn't really matter. Your Harriers, they don't do much. They just lose, just instantly die. Um, your Nighthawks, you can't really back them up with anything. You don't have anything to back them up with. Your tanks, Chieftain, worst tank in the game. You know, not cost efficient at all. Just loses. You're left with Abrams tanks. That again, you're left with Meeps that just don't do the job. Um, so yeah, that's like it's just the way that Burcom functions is really not like ideal. Of course, you do get some like recon play, but it's just like it does so horrible against the better divisions. That's why it, in my opinion, is one of the worst divisions in the game. Now, of course, like arguments can be made, like for like this, right? Arguments can be made for something like this. Um, but I arguably think that there's a bigger chance of like you winning if you play it 152nd than Burcom, because like 152nd still has like speed going for it, right? So if you do speed your enemy and then play defense the rest of the game, you have a chance to win. Whereas Burcom is forced to play less speed, but it doesn't make up for it in any type of late game way. So like it feels like the only thing about that division is special is the Nighthawk, and then the Nighthawk dies anyway because anything in this day, like every division in this day and age gets something to spot the Nighthawk, so it doesn't really matter, right? So that's why Burcom is where it is, unfortunately, in last place. And that basically wraps up this tier list. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like down below and consider subscribing. It'll help me out a lot, and I'd really appreciate it. See you in the next video, Commanders.